question.
Yes.
What was the prime reason, if there was a prime reason, for the advent of Haman amongst in Persia at that time? I understand that there was a laxity in education, Jewish education. In other words, the Jews who lived in Persia, they either had no education or it was very weak for the children. They discontinued it. That's what I understand. Is that correct? If not, what was the main, if there was a main reason for Haman's coming out?
Well, the situation of the Jews in Persia, it says the main reason that's given is that they assimilated to some extent to the Persian Empire, which when Achashverosh took over the kingdom, he made a huge banquet for half a year, to which he invited the Jews also. And the Jews participated in the banquet, and some of them kept kashrut, but this is a symbol of them assimilating to the ways of the Persians.
The fact that they enjoyed the banquet.
Yes, yes. I mean, there was a section that was dedicated, and, but that was, if you read between the lines of the whole episode, this was one of the causes. Now, to continue where we left off yesterday, concerning the concept of time, we spoke about the Vova Hippoch, the conversive verb, which changes things. So, the discussion of the Gemara, which is in the first column here, and for those who want to follow in the Hebrew, is that Vayhi expresses misfortune, but then they ask questions. There are occasionally when it's the opposite. When the Vayhi seems to indicate a change for the better in every way. So those who are following inside, it's halfway down the first column, the discussion in the Midrash is Vakativ, it's written, Vahi Bayom Hashmini, the day when the sanctuary was dedicated, it's also called Vahi Bayom, and was a day of great joy. And with the example also of Yaakov meeting Rochel, which is also a very happy moment for him. So they say, you can be used both ways. And right at the bottom of the column, he brings here, from the discussion on this subject, that Vahi bimei vada lashon tzarvu. When you analyze the phrases throughout the Tanakh, then you find that when it says it was in the days of, there are 5 verses of that nature, and they certainly deal with troublesome times. One of them is Vahi b'mei Achashverosh, Vahi b'mei Achashverosh, Hu Achashverosh, Ha'poilech moidu ve'akush, that's the first pasuk in song. But it was an unfortunate change. As we see from the ensuing episode, the decree to destroy every Jew. And also Vahi b'mei shvot hashvotim, now at the top of the second column. In the days when the judges were being judged, that means there was lawlessness in the country. Vahi b'mei arafel, and the war of the 4 kings against the 5 kings. Vahi b'mei Achaz, and also Achaz and Joachim, who began an evil kingdom. So therefore, 5 lines from the top of the second column, Da. The Maral explains like this. Vahi lefi atiktok u'moreh hava nimshechet bilti nishnama. To understand the grammar of Hebrew, so when it says Vahi, it speaks about the stream of time. See, the Vav, also modern grammarians, they say the Vav should not be looked at too much as a conversive Vav, but it's a connecting Vav. That's the one we mentioned yesterday. The word Vav is also, the letters of the alphabet have deep meanings from every angle. And Vav, it occurs frequently in the Parshas concerning the construction of the sanctuary. What does the word Vav mean?
Vav is end.
Pardon?
Vav is a connection.
Yeah, what else does it mean? It's also a noun. Vav is a preposition meaning and, yes, but also Vav is Vavei Hamudim, are mentioned frequently in the Parshas we've just read on the previous Shabboses. So Vav is a hook. It looks like a hook. It hooks one event to the next event. So it's more a consecutive Vav, some call it, not a conversive Vav. In other words, it shows us that you're looking at the flow of time. There's even the Greek philosopher, one of Zeno's riddles. He was a philosopher who brought riddles. So one of his riddles, it's brought also in many deeper thinkers who analyze logic. They say, how do you look at time? Is time made up of points, one after the other, or is it made of a wave, a fluid that flows? Certainly you can look at time from both angles. Say at this split second, today you've got like watches that divide seconds into further fractions, thousands of a second. Yeah. So it's like you have in the quantum theory. Quantum theory, you know what it's based on? It's from scientific knowledge today. That energy, the experiments that prove that basic energy is made up, we manage it, matter is basically energy, and the energy are really made up of particles. One view, the particle view, smallest particles imaginable. That's the small particles of energy, most minute, add up together to create the appearance of a gas, and then of a liquid, and even of a solid. The other view is no, they're just waves of energy, not particles. They can't really be both, logically speaking, but physically speaking, according to deep analysis, they are both. It means there are contradictions in the basis of nature. So it's the same question you can say with regard to time. Is time 1 microsecond followed by the next microsecond, or is it a flow? So Vahi looks at time from the point of view of a flow. That's what he said. Hu more al havaya nimshechet bilti nishlama. It's continuity which is incomplete, carries on. Ze hemshech hazman. This is the continuity of time. And you must know the Maharal of Prague was a brilliant scientist, and there's Tycho Brahe and Kepler. He had connections with them in Prague. He was highly regarded as a very deep philosopher. Of course, this is the word haya means to exist. So existence, we know, is measured. Existence measured through time and space. So time is something that flows. If it would be an existence that's already finished and past, which is being described in Kanzman, that means it no longer exists, doesn't exist anymore. It existed once, but it doesn't exist anymore. But it says, time is הזמן לעבר נמשכת, ולא עבר הזמן. ולא שפירושו לעתיד. Also, when you have a vav followed by the future, as you have by Yehi means it will be in the future, then this explanation is, it does not really mean, what the vav tells us, it does not really mean a future, because the future is not continuity. The future hasn't started yet. Whenever it says Yehi, it means an existence that has not yet started. Therefore, this is not really the essence of time. It's like the witticism I mentioned yesterday. It's good to give you, it said in Ezra, it's directed the same thing. It says, Avar Ayin. The past is no longer in existence. That's the definition of the past. The future is not yet in existence. So neither the past nor the future are really within the flow of time. So Vayhi tells us this is the concept of the flow of time. The Havabu Shafachota Li'avar, Al Ken Yesh Bazi Avar Be'atid. When you have the Vav together with Yehi, then you have the past and the future together. How can they be together? Because you regard time as not as separate points, but you regard time as a fluid, a wave. It's a combination of the past and the future. Those who understand science, they understand this. And the truth is, the Rambam in his guide for the perplexed also speaks about the definition of time, and Maharal speaks about it at length in other places. But anyway, here we've got to know, Vayahi speaks upon an incomplete time. That's why it's continuous, it carries on. It's from the past into the future. And obviously, things change from the past to the future. There's constant changes. Even if we say that time is a continuum from the past into the future, well, we live in a world of constant change, so it changes. Every change means a potential for things deteriorating. It can also be a potential for things improving. So when it says Vayhi, it says, whoa, that there's been a missed opportunity, as explained yesterday. So the Gemara answers, but we do find cases in the Tanakh where Vayhi expresses a change for the better. He says, yes, because because it's possible, it's going to teach us a sudden change for the better. Because when in the world of matter there are different forms being produced, then it means something new. It's Ishtanut. But Vayhi Bimei indicates something which is negative. So, if you anyone interested to follow the next page, please. Next page. Now, he said that to explain why it should be Lashon Tzad. So Yesh Meforshim, he says, why is it Vahi B'mei Achashverosh, and other cases? He says because we're speaking about things that happened in the past and that we're fortunate they don't happen today. Lo Yizeh Oleinu B'zmanenu. It's the thing of the past and everyone forget about it. Forget about the troubles of the past. So if the truth is, memory is that which brings us to sometimes feel the past as being present. And one of the great things Hashem has created for us is the power of forgetfulness. In other words, the past, as far as we're concerned, is past. If somebody, let's say, he had a very painful treatment at the dentist, and he wanted to scream, except he couldn't. His mouth was fixed. Well, if a person would always have a constant awareness of whatever's happened in the past in his conscious mind, the suffering would continue. But Baruch Hashem, it's past, it's over. Once it's over, you can't change it. And if it's been something unpleasant, you can forget about it. He says, but that can't be the explanation. In the discussion in the Gemara. And there we have to explain as follows. And here we go into the concept which is developed a lot by the Maral. After all, we know that it says right in the book of Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, the world was created through the Hebrew language. And it's also mentioned with regard to the sanctuary. Where is it mentioned in the Rashi over the past few weeks? Anyone knows? That the world was created with the Hebrew language. It says that Bezalel was given great wisdom. Probably to do with that. He was given such deep wisdom that he knew the letters whereby the world was created. This actually concept of the Sefer Yetzirah, the oldest grammatical work and esoterical work, which is found in oral tradition, also in ancient texts, and the base of which is attributed to Avraham Avinu. And a certain element of these concepts, I'll tell you something about Rav Hirsch. He had a teacher called Chacham Bernai, who also produced a work wherein he explained also Far Eastern Sanskrit religious and philosophical texts that seemed to go back to the Sefer Yetzirah, same ideas. So these were ideas which were spread also by the Brahmins. And the Brahmins, some people say that goes back to the tradition that happened with Avraham Avinu. And these are referred to in the book of Genesis, Bereshit, where it says that the Ibnei Pilagshim, Ashali Abraham, Abraham had sons of concubines, and those were sent to the east, and they say, who was sent to the east? His disciples. So maybe even his descendants were sent to the east to spread ancient wisdom. And those descendants, but it means physical descendants or his disciples of Abraham, they're known as the Brahmins. So these ideas were developed already by this Chacham Bernai, who was a brilliant teacher of Torah and had fantastic knowledge of probably all ancient philosophies and religions. Anyway, the essence of the ineffable name of Hashem, it's all interrelated, contains three letters: the Yud, the Vav, and the Hey. And also this Yud and Vav and Hey, if one wants to translate the ineffable name of Hashem into a concept, so the generally accepted translation is, He was, He is, and He will be. Haya, Hoveh v'yiyeh. Hashem exists, that's what we say. Not on Olam we say it. Hashem existed before the world, He exists in the present world, and He will exist when there will be no world. Hashem is eternal, it's above time. And today we would say He is beyond time, and this concept, when Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem in the 3rd chapter of Shemot, if I come to the people of Israel, what name shall I give you? How can I explain who you are? So Hashem said to him, what did He say? I am that I am. This is my name. The words of Yeshua, Zeh Shemi v'zeh Zichri l'dor v'dor. He said, this is my name. Now, the name is the way in which something can be known to us. But the word, when it says, Zeh Shemi l'olam, my name, olam really comes to the root to be hidden. My name is hidden. Now, we find the word olam in the Tanakh. What does it mean? The way we use olam today, what does it mean?
Forever, always.
What else does it mean?
World.
So therefore, it's very interesting. We have the same word in Hebrew for the universe, not the world in the sense of the universe, and for eternity. And so really, olam means infinity. We live in a world where there's infinity and where there is eternity as a concept. But there's no human being who can really fathom what infinity means. It's even a mathematical concept used also in analyzing the basis of the universe. And we find in Hebrew the same term used for eternity and infinity. In fact, this is a premonition of what was discovered. I mean, as I mentioned before, Einstein developed it, but he had at his side this Brisker Talmud, who was a brilliant Talmudical scholar and also became a great scientist, and did not want to become known because he had a disfigured face. He was ashamed of appearing anywhere. He had elephantitis. But Einstein admits that he helped him a lot with the development of his theories. So the time-space continuum, which is the basis of the Einstein concept of relativity, and also his other theories, this is inherent in this first revelation of the name of Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu, because Zeh Shemi l'olam. That means, really my name is hidden. But you know what it is? Where can you see it? You can see it in eternity and infinity. The eternity of time and the infinity of space, which in Newtonian physics we regard as two different dimensions. But in modern physics, we speak of time-space continuum as being joined together, as it is also in the Chumash. Zeh Zichri l'dor v'dor. But the way you can mention my name for all generations is the Shem Atmos. See, so there's waves, there's the ineffable name, what it means inside, and there's the way in which you can apply it. Zichri is the way to mention the name of Shem Atmos, my master. As we accept this infinite and eternal mind of the universe, we can reach it through time and space, through a limitation of time and space that are given to the human mind in this world. So, of these, the three important letters, and this is a simpler concept of dimensions, is the Yud, the Vav, and the Hey. So here he says like this. Why is it 5 times, he says, the word Vayhi is a reference to unfortunate changes, to the way in which time seems to be filled with hope, but so frequently we fall short. Everything. So he said like this. He goes back to the statement of the sages where it says, Hashem ki beyo Hashem tzur olamim. The pasuk said, Yud Kei is the first part of the name of Hashem. So it says Hashem created the world with Yud and Hey. With Yud he created the spiritual world, and with Hey he created the material world. Olam Hazeh he created with the Hey, and Olam Haba, the spiritual, created with the Yud. So it's like this. The Yud, really, it says the world כך הווה אותו העולם הזה מוכן לחמישה דברים שיש בהם הוויה. שבהם השינו ואמצע, ולא כמו העולם השנית ביוד, שעוד רק קטנה. The Yud, in a concept, is the dot. The dot that has no dimensions. If you write a dot with a thin pen, it's still got 3 dimensions. They're very small. For that you need an intensive microscope to see how much width there is and length there is, and depth there is in the Yud. But in the concept, as it's developed in Sefer Yetzirah and afterwards in the Zohar, the Yud represents the invisible world, the invisible dot, which has no measurements, which is spiritual. And the Vav represents the line. The line has already got a dimension, a line. And the Hey represents 3 dimensions. Otherwise, because it's got lines, and then it's got a dot. So it said the Yud Ot Katana, the Kuda, V'lo Yichalek. It's a point which you can't divide further. But there is not a Katuna. Yeshayit Bo Chiluk. In the physical world of objects in which we live in a 3-dimensional world of space and objects. So that's Olam Hazeh, created by Hashem, Shu Mitchalek, Umizeu Mitchadesh Havaya, with which He changes the world. Forms change. In the 3-dimensional world, things keep changing. But the essence of existence is the spiritual world, where there's no such thing as change. It's above time and above space. So Klal Hadavar, so it says, where does trouble come from? Because we have a world where things keep changing, and therefore, things which one thinks are almost perfect, that's the turn afterwards to be more imperfect. In this world, everything reaches its prime, and then begins the decline. Applies to everything physical in this world, in one way or another. So therefore, this is why Vahi Bimei is a reference to the flow of time and things which change. Klal Hadavar, this is existence which changes, and the potential is it changes in a way of declining. This world, we live in the world of limitation of time and of space. That's why this world was created with a Hey. And that's why we have here five times in the Tanakh, Vahi Bimei, where we say it's Lashon Tsa'ar. So, to understand this, that the Midrash says further, on the second column here, that Shimon ben Zoma b'Shem Rabbi Kol Makom Shem Vahi Misham Tzara V'Simcha. The truth is that Vahi can mean a change, generally speaking a decline, but it can be the opposite. It means if there's a tzara, a trouble, then it's extreme trouble. If there is a joy, it's a great joy. So this is a parallel also to the whole discussion we had before in the Gemara. But this is going to things very deeply, and now in fact, to go and apply this to what actually happened to the Persian Empire, we go to the bottom of the second column. We turn to the introduction to Megillah Esther given by Rabbi Yonatan, who refers it to a verse in Yeshaya which says, we know that which was the empire which preceded the Persian Empire?
Greeks.
No.
It came afterward.
Follow it.
It's Assyrian, I think.
On?
Assyrian.
No.
Babylonian.
Babylonian. The Assyrians were conquered by the Babylonians, by the huge empire. And the Babylonians their last king was Belshazzar, and he was assassinated.
Handwriting on the wall.
What?
The handwriting on the wall.
Handwriting on the wall, most famous painting of Rembrandt, yeah, where he put up the Hebrew letters that nobody knew except Daniel. So, and the daughter of Belshazzar was the only one he was assassinated, but she Achashverosh, she usurped the throne. It didn't come from a royal family, but he took it over.
She called him a stable boy of her father.
Yeah, because she was the princess.
She was, but she called her husband, you're nothing but a stable boy.
That's
of her
right.
father.
He
That's what got him
used to be
some
Lord. He became the emperor. So it says like this: Yeshaya, who prophesies about the future, there's no way to explain the prophet Yeshaya. He's just dealing with his own time, because he lived in the middle of the first temple period, in time of Ochad and Chizkiah, both the righteous king Chizkiah and wicked king Achaz and Menashe. So his prophecies, as we saw in the previous shiurim, they're going until today. It's amazing. But in any case, Rabbi Yonatan, there's in 14th chapter, Yeshaya said, I'm going to raise up against Bavel because they're evil, which they're going to do. They'll have nobody left. I'll cut off from them any descendants, any grand or great grandchildren, or any name. So Rabbi Yonatan said, from this Megillah we can learn out the paths of divine providence. How Hashem, He punishes the wicked in the end, destroys them completely. Like happened that what does Hashem do? That you can learn from this Megillah the ways of Hashem, how sometimes He punishes the wicked completely, and there's nothing left of them, as He did to the Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Bavel, that He decreed that they should be destroyed entirely. Why? Because they destroyed the temple, Beit HaMikdash. So this Megillah speaks about the way in which He destroyed them entirely. Destroying the last descendant. Because she was descended from Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar. So He wants to show us, let those wicked tyrants who think they are God and rule the world and do what they want, ultimately they'll be utterly destroyed. So we're now on the first column on page, some of page. Any questions?
In the beginning of the Megillah, it says that Ahasuerus reigned over 127 provinces.
Yeah.
That was also the age of Sarah Amina when she passed away. Is that a coincidence, or is there significance to that? No.
Well, it's see, there are many things mentioned in the Bible, and it's a complete unity. There are things that are mentioned in the beginning of Genesis, but to understand why they're mentioned and what significance they have, you find it in the history of mankind, the history of the people of Israel. So the concept is that Sarah, her name is really, Sarah is a princess. That she brought the right direction from Hashem to the rest of mankind. It's given not to Sorah Shema, because she, together with Abraham, they were blessed, and through them we blessed all the families of the earth. And it means we shouldn't think that what we're told about Abraham and Sarah, it happened in ancient times. You know, there's plenty of books written these days about Abraham and Ur of the Chaldeans. And it's become human knowledge of what happened to Abraham and Sarah. They were given a blessing, through you will be blessed all the families of the earth. But those that curse you will be cursed. So here we have a parallel. The saintliness of Sarah and what she went through together with Abraham, this produced a situation that even an empire that is hinted at as being one of the biggest empire of the inhabited world, and also even that their religion, that they thought they could spread all over the world, the Zoroastrian religion, and that their culture would cause the people of Israel to disappear from the world, because that was behind it. Ahasuerus was a partner with Haman in the utter destruction of the Jewish people, that Sarah will remain, and her great midot, her great qualities, will be stronger than the world emperor, whoever considered himself the world emperor, like Ahasuerus thought he would be through partnership with Haman, and like Haman certainly wanted to be. In fact, Haman, as we see from the Megilla, he wanted to become emperor. Yeah? He only for a time he was ready to wait his moment, and he thought his moment came when even Ahasuerus admitted, allowed him to wear his crown and so on. So the Megillah teaches us the same applies to Torquemada of Spain, or to Titus. What happened to Nebuchadnezzar? So Ahasuerus, what did he do on the banquet? What was this banquet? You know what he did? He took out, although Belshazzar, it was understood, he also thought the 70 years are over, the Jewish people have not rebuilt their Beit HaMikdash, that means the Jewish people are finished. And therefore there's no harm in us now, you're dressing up as the high priest and going to take out the vessels which Nebuchadnezzar had stolen, the holy vessels. You asked yesterday, maybe the Holy Ark was also there, who knows, the stones. The stolen, all the stones they threw away, any mention of God they destroyed, but the gold and the silver they kept. And then Belshazzar used it at his feast, because he says there are no more Jews in the world. And now Ahasuerus, or at first he was diplomatic, and he said, let the Jews have freedom, let them all join my huge banquet, maybe all the wine and the women will turn their heads for half a year, non-stop drinks. And today, it's very interesting. All right, we haven't found the Luchot, of course, either they destroyed and broke them to pieces, or they're buried somewhere deep. But today, you can take out the book we've got here, Persian Empire, I'll bring it, but I'll just bring it up. He kept it home, should get destroyed. You see from all the museums and all the archaeological discoveries, they found the palace of Ahasuerus, and you can imagine what's the meal they had. And it was drinking, and it was, as we see, there was the entertainment. He wanted to, his wife always felt herself a bit royalty, and Ahasuerus wanted to show, he's the master. So, won't go into the details, but he wanted her to go and participate in a beauty contest, and she refused, especially the manner in which she wanted to do it was most extreme immorality. So, but the Jews they're all there, most of them. Well, of course, there's certainly a group that refused to go. Mordechai refused to go, said nobody should go, but many people went. So it shows that, and he really wanted to destroy the Jewish people entirely. But therefore, when Haman came with his plan, he said, "Yeah, you go ahead with it." And it doesn't refer to them. It refers to all their successors, including Stalin, had his last stroke from which he didn't survive on Purim, and including Saddam Hussein, and including maybe also the present hidden dictator. He claims not a dictator, but it's like a dictator. The dictatorial group that's ruling Iran, and find all sorts of sly methods of gradually becoming the top non-conventional weapon empire in the world. So, we should know they'll all become destroyed. And the example in Yeshaya said, what happened to Nebuchadnezzar with his dreams? You see, as you know, he had if you look at what happened to him, he became, for a certain time, he got a mental illness and became almost like an animal. Because his dreams of what he thought he was were reached the limit of human imagination. It became a maniac. The same applies to Hitler. Wasn't a maniac. It's also a maniac. But, then he and his empire disappeared. But unfortunately, there are successors. So, but Purim we say, Horobes Rivenu. Hashem, He is the one who keeps us alive. We think it's Him, and the others disappear.